this first to, oh, I wasn't recording. That would have been. All right, so I recorded it and now more live on
Cowbell.
yeah, live, live on a page you manage. All right, so that's gonna be the page. And then we can probably do, I don't know if we can share. I don't think we can share it on like Mastermind or anything else, but I'm doing it live on the Clear This Mechanism page. And I think, let me see, podcast with Catherine. I'm learning.
I love that. I love that. 'Cause then you can teach others.
Yep. All right. So let's see if we can go live. The live is gonna be. It has a little lag to it, but I'm not sure. Reach more people by adding. Oh, okay. Wait. So were you able to go to
I went to one of the places. I went to the gym, picked up all of the stuff, and then I went to one of the families and delivered. And then tomorrow morning I'll deliver to the other place.
That's so awesome. That is so.
It really,
so awesome.
really was. It was emotional for me. I felt so privileged to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And those people really went out and they went out and beyond. They
I thought they were going to pick just one of the places in need, and instead they chose all three. So
wow.
that was cool.
That's so awesome. That's amazing that people. I was thinking when you were, when I watched it afterwards, I was thinking so many people doing so many good things, and these are the things that we
don't hear about, right? We don't hear about all the good stuff.
Exactly.
And there's so much good stuff.
Exactly, there is, right? And it's we don't hear about that stuff. It's great to hear. Like, let me see if we're live. It's great to hear that. It's great to hear, hear you and like hear about these good stuff. Like you're talking, like you said, like, right? We don't hear that type of stuff. Okay, I think we're live, but I'm not sure. I sent, my daughter's helping me out with all this.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Can she see you? Did she say if you're?
I asked her. Oh, yep, we're live. She just said that we are. So yeah, we're live.
Good job.
Yeah, and Darian, you're listening. So if you can share this, we can share it on my page. Let me see if I can share it on my page as well. My personal page. Because if we can share this on my personal page.
And ask her about the volume if we sound okay.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. And she said, okay. All right, so she's going to do everything. Do we sound okay?
No, this is great. It's good for people to see, like sometimes they're intimidated to do these things because they think that somehow we just, instinctively know how to hook everything up and make it perfect. And that's not true. It's a skill. You have to learn something new.
Exactly. And that's why, that's why I'm doing it like this. This is I think it's a way to people realize that, it's not a big deal, right? I mean, the most important thing is the content, right? Not necessarily how we do it or whatever, or
Exactly. We don't have to have this social ring light over our heads, and our makeup doesn't have to be perfect, and our dog can jump on our lap.
Exactly. And what's his name? or her name?
This is Lulu. She's 3.5
Oh,
pound Yorkie Shih Tzu mix. My other dog is a 7 pound full-blooded Chihuahua. And then I have the 2 Labrador retrievers. And guess who's alpha?
oh, really?
Oh my gosh. She tells the big dogs, get off my chair, and they listen to her. It's
Wow.
amazing. It's all energy.
It is, right? It is. So, okay, I guess we're live. So everybody tuning in, this is the second Clear This Mechanism episode, and I am so honored and so excited to have this because we have Catherine Ann Wilson with us today, and she's just an amazing human being. So I'm immediately just going to not because I don't want to miss anything. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Catherine, for taking the time and for being here. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. And I always love your lives, and there's always so much peace coming, that you can actually feel it through your lives. But one of the things I did with my cousin in the last interview, and I wanted to do, I think I'm going to do all of this in all of the interviews, right? It's taking care of the ego first, right? Because it always wants to creep in. So first, I wanted to talk to you and see, you're doing so many things, and you're doing so many wonderful things, and the level that you're doing it on. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, and kind of like we can get the ego satisfied before we go into the spiritual part of it?
Yeah, that's a hard part for me. I'm really not somebody who likes to toot my own horn. I'm just like everybody else. I'm a perfectly imperfect human being, just a human being having this spiritual experience like everybody else. And my experience of this world was a childhood just, contaminated with early childhood sexual abuse. My parents were happily married. I was the first of 3 kids, and my little brother was very sick. And so, oops.
I think we lost your video.
Wait, hang on. Hold on. Decline. Somebody, actually, that house for survivors, I told you I had the stuff for it. That was the house calling, but I'll call her back. So, my parents' attention was diverted, and I was left vulnerable. And one of the administrators in first grade knew the situation, knew that I was vulnerable, and he would pull me out of class and sexually abuse me in his office, and called me his special little girl and all that. And that was before people really knew what that was about. And for a child being sexually abused, it's sort of like the first time you're abused, it's like blood in the water of sharks. And all of a sudden, all the predators around just come out of everywhere. So right after that, it was the babysitter, and it was my uncle, and it was my aunt, and it was a friend because men and women sexually abuse. And it was, and now I'm behaving differently at school, and I'm bedwetting, and I'm being bullied at school, and I'm starting to run away. And I was a runaway from 12 to 17 years old. I didn't do the drug and alcohol thing only because I couldn't tolerate drugs and alcohol. The good news about that is I didn't become an addict. Mm-hmm. The bad news about that is I remember every rape, every strangulation, every beating, everything that was ever done to me. The good news, as I started the surviving process, because, what we know from military people is the shit really doesn't hit the fan until you're home safe and sound. And then when you're safe, then your physiology says, okay, now I can feel. And that's really when the post-traumatic stress and the night terrors and chronic panic begins. And then now this whole other journey of healing begins. And for me, having remembered everything, I wasn't able to tolerate anti-anxiety medication, antidepressants, anything like that. I couldn't take anything like that. So I had to come up with other ways of healing. You know, there was it's a whole smorgasbord of different kinds of therapeutic processes that I had to use. Tony Robbins was a huge impact back in the day because he would interview all these people from all these different walks of life, and they gave me hope. And so that was like a really huge thing, was the hope. And then I'm giving you the Cliff Note version. And then I went on to be a national sales manager and make a 6-figure income. I have 2 healthy adult kids. I had 2 pregnancies, 2 children. I've got 5 grandchildren. My life has never been better than it is right now. I'm happily married to my second husband. I've been with Charlie for 10 years. We live on Sebago Lake in Maine. I live in the woods on a lake in Maine, just like my vision board. You know, I used to do vision boards and just like what I wanted for my life. And I'm living that. And right before I turned 50, you know, I didn't share my past of being sex trafficked, or I didn't share my past. It was a need to know basis. Mm-hmm. Of course, my husband, you know, needed to know, but really nobody. And then I'm 55, I'll be soon 56. Right before I turned 50, I started doing some volunteer work at a local jail for kids, a juvenile detention center. And in working with those girls, it became apparent that I really needed to share my story so that people could have hope. The story could be used as an example of the cause and effect. And I could really help people if I would just tell my story. So I got permission from my friends and family and said, hey, you know, is this okay with you? And they said yes. And I started the nonprofit, you know, right about then, Stop Trafficking US.org, if anybody wants to go to the website. And I've been working tenaciously, grassroots on a shoestring budget ever since then. And we've done incredible things.
Which I think it's amazing that we've spoken, and I know that I mean, I don't want to necessarily say something. I know that we've had conversations, you know.
You're allowed to say anything you want.
Okay, perfect. Well, I just wanted to honor your husband as well, because, you know, you talked to you kind of like mentioned that that you know that you know, he's been a huge help, and with the tight budget and everything, and he's always been there with you, and I think that's amazing. Apart from all the things that you went to the White House a couple of months ago, right?
I did, October 30th. Yeah, it was really cool. You know, one of the things that so my premise is very much like Tony World, is that I believe in the best of human beings. You know, and I believe that at the core of everyone is a good person. And if people aren't showing up that way, then they're not in their true self. And that's a cry for help, you know? And I believe that most of the people are really in their true self, in their high self. And if I could just explain the fact that 1 in 5 children are being sexually abused, and that those sexually abused children aren't forming correctly, their kinesiology, their everything isn't developing correctly, so that when they grow up, that is where addictions and obesity and cutting and all these mental illnesses that are situational, you know, incarceration, sex trafficking, like there's 89% of all these things are all, their genesis all comes from the abuse of our children. And that if they just sort of understood the cause and effect, then they would rally and do the right thing. So everything has been around, how can I educate the most amount of people to motivate the helpers that are out there, to give hope to the survivors, that regardless, like there's no comparison around trauma. No matter what has happened to you and whatever story you make up about it, It was only a little thing, but I'm, severely affected. It was a huge thing, but I'm moderate, whatever it is, that there's hope for healing and that it's your destiny to thrive. And then ultimately to save as many childhoods from abuse as we possibly can. So every day it is an act of surrender and openness to be a conduit, to be of service to that end, to educate, to motivate, and to save as many childhood as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. Hearing your lives and seeing you're so devoted to the cause, right? And talking to you, it's amazing to me. I really didn't realize how much this happened, and just like
Right.
like this is life, right? So this is what happens when it's life. But
Right.
just
It's
thinking
okay.
about it, my eyes get kind of, because it's just, this is happening to so many people, right? And it's
Right.
I don't know, it amazes me.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And you know what? This isn't cancer. This is something we can really do something about. It's been said that we could totally heal our communities in a profound way within 3 generations if we just stop having sex with children today.
Wow.
That's it. Just stop having sex with kids.
Which is crazy in the first place, right? I mean, we shouldn't even have to talk about stopping doing this. We shouldn't even, right? It's
right.
crazy.
It's crazy that I even have to say that.
Yeah.
But in the dark places, that is where that's where this hides.
Mm-hmm.
It is in the keeping secrets. It's in the people not having a gut feeling and not saying something. It's trying to be not cause trouble, be polite. It's a whole cultural norm that we have to shift, and we can totally shift that if we just put light in those dark places.
Yeah.
And you really, you and I have had some terrific conversations around spirituality, and really that's, our goal for 2020, my nonprofit. Last year our goal was the conference. So back to that just for a second, because it's been an amazing few months. We always say.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But by the way, to the people that are listening to us, well, I said that Catherine went to the White House. Catherine was invited to go to the White House to form a part of a group, right? To stop
Yeah.
this, right? So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that people understood.
That's okay. So in September we said, okay. Actually, it was a year ago. I said, okay, I'm one person with a few people on my board. How can I reach the most amount of people to educate them? And I thought, I go to these conferences. You go to conferences with your work, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody goes to conferences, and they're usually vocationally focused. So if you're selling paint, there's the conference and all the different paint makers go, right? Mm-hmm. There's social worker conferences, there's fireman conferences, there's pediatrician conferences. And when you go to those, you're kind of like preaching to the choir. The people who are there get it, right? You all get it. You all are on the same page. So I'm like, these conferences for child sexual abuse prevention and sex trafficking, we're just preaching to the choir. The people who need to hear it aren't here. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it costs money to go to conferences. They're usually during the week. They're usually out of your home state. Mm-hmm. So I thought, how can I have a conference? Like, what does it take? How do you do a conference? I don't know, right? How can I do a conference here and bring the experts that I'm blessed to be able to learn from? So what I was doing was I was like interviewing them, and we have a local cable show, and they would let me bring guests on if the guest happened to be in my state. Mm-hmm. So if there was somebody who was an expert in EMDR, somebody from Homeland Security, somebody whatever, I'd bring them as a guest on this show called Issues That Matter. Then I would take that video and like put it out for everybody,
Okay.
And I'm like, I got to do better. I want to do more. So I found out that Victor Vieth, was like known worldwide as the expert in child sexual abuse prevention. Humble guy. He's like Mr. Rogers, right? But like a brain, like huge brain, like Spock on Star Trek back in the day, but as Mr. Rogers. Quite the combination. So so I called him up and I said, look, dude, I don't know how much you cost. Like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we'll figure out the cost later. When's the best time to be in Maine? And I said, September. It's beautiful in Maine in September. We set the date. And then I kind of got the ballpark on how much he was going to charge. It was like $9,000 for him and one of his peers, plus their flight and the hotel, that sort of thing. So I'm like learning, how to do Zoom. I was learning. And then we found out how to, Ingrid is on my board. She's a godsend. She called the universities and said, how can we give continuing education credits? So for people who don't know, if you're a doctor, a nurse, a therapist, a pediatrician, a judge, a police officer, all these things, a therapist, all of these things, you have to once you get your license, you have to take classes that will offer continuing education credits every year. You have to get so many credits to keep your license valid. Mm-hmm. So we were able to get the ability to offer CEUs, including ones for police, including ones for lawyers, which are 3 different things.
Wow, that's huge.
And it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
And then we went out to the community and we raised $25,000 to pay for the entire conference so that anybody who came to the conference would come for free, including the CEUs. Wow. This was a love offering to our community, right? This was a huge deal. And it was an amazing experience. I would never want to do that without collaborating with an organization because it was a lot. It was like crazy work, right? And I got told no. One church was like, you can't have it here. We're not going to even, and I was renting. I wasn't asking for it for free. I was paying. And one church was like, yeah, no, what? You can't have it here. We have a sex trafficking group in our church, so you can't do it here. Oh, and I'm like, this isn't sex trafficking. This is right. And so you have to deal with brains, like with people don't get it, and you just have to like,
Egos,
right. So for your audience, it's just a thing. Like stuff gets in the way, and you have to figure it out, right? You just keep moving forward. And so it was a lovely success. And then while I was doing the conference, I got this thing from a very large local radio station. There's a radio group here that has like 8 stations. And they voted me one of 20 outstanding women in the state of Maine.
I saw that too, yes.
So, and I was like, I didn't want to go because I just didn't want the spotlight on me. I just felt really uncomfortable. But I figured that there was a higher purpose. And when I went, I met a woman there who loves doing grant writing. Like this missing piece. Like if you have a baseball team, you need to have a pitcher, you need to have a catcher, you need to have somebody who can throw really far from outfield. And I don't have all the players, right? Well, I need a grant writer. This lady asked me, hey, can I didn't even ask her. She said, hey, can I be your grant writer? I'm just like, thank you, God, right? And so now I need a break because I'm exhausted. And so I'm headed up to camp. Like there's no electricity up there. There's no cell, anything. And I was checking my emails right before I was going over into no man's land. And there was an email from the freaking White House. And I'm like, is this spam? Right? And I'm checking out. And it says .wh.gov or something. And I'm like, this could be the White House. And it said, call the number. So I call the number, and the woman that answered It was the White House.
Wow.
And the lady was like, yeah, we got your name from Victor Veith.
Wow.
Proximity, just like
Exactly.
Michelle Soro teaches us, right?
Exactly.
Proximity. So, he's such an unassuming, quiet Victor guy, but he told the White House that if they needed a sex trafficked survivor voice in the White House, that I was the person that they should bring. So, and she's like, yeah, can you be here on October 30th? And I said, she was really a nice Giovanna. I said, Giovanna, I'm being very calm and professional with you, but if you ever watched a football game and the guy's doing that crazy touchdown dance in my car right now, you can't see it, but I'm doing the dance, right? And I said, what an honor to be asked. What an honor to be asked. And so, so it was very hush hush. They don't tell you like who's going to be there, and there's like tons of security. And when you go there, like there's all these dudes with like AK something, guns, and they're all jacked out. It's crazy, intimidating. But I was in the Roosevelt room, which is in the Roosevelt room. There's a fireplace and 2 doors, and you open one of the doors, and there's the Oval Office.
Wow.
You're in the West Wing, and I should have like taken a bunch of more pictures, but I was just like,
you're enjoying it.
I was just like, oh my God, the door is beautiful. The doorknob is beautiful. The floor is beautiful. Right?
I remember your lives, by the way, for anybody listening, Catherine and I we've actually been part of a couple masterminds together, right?
And that's how we met. So Lorelei introduced us.
Yeah.
That's how we met. Hi, Lorelei.
Yeah, Lorelei is amazing. She is an angel. I really do think she's one of the. I mean, there's so many people that I think. Basically, I think these days I think everybody's an angel, but
right.
But yeah, we met through Lorelei's mastermind, and I remember when that happened. I loved watching your lives from the White House, and sharing all that with us. That was amazing.
My room was really beautiful. The hotel room. Yeah. I ate every meal for room service in my room. I was just like, this is beautiful. I don't want to go anywhere. I did get my husband to actually, number one, he came. Number two, he went to the Bible Museum. And he was really worried that if you walked in the door, he would combust, he'd explode. He says that about church too. Anyway, so we went into the Bible Museum. The museums there were it was an amazing experience. But so when we were at the end of the conference, I asked Victor Veith, I said, you travel the world. How can I be the most effective? What can I do in my town? What can I do, just me right here, right now, that would save the most amount of children? How can I be of service? Mm-hmm. And he said, go into all the faith-based organizations, temples, synagogues, churches, and get them to update their policies and procedures. Because right now, when you have a church of any kind, a faith-based organization of any kind, in order to get insurance, you have to have certain things. You need to have the exit signs. You need the certain criteria. And one of the criteria is a policy and procedure on how to keep children safe from harm. But that policy and procedure is old, and most of them have not updated their policies and procedures in a decade or more. So he said that alone, because 95% of human beings are not child molesters, like even the whole Catholic Church scandal, it was only 5% of the priests that did it. And in our general population, it's about 5%. But that 5% does a horrific, devastating amount of harm. If you think of a nuclear power plant and you had a 5% leak, that 5% leak, that leak is going to, destroy lives, right? Yeah. Even though it's only 5%. So offenders go where there's easy prey. And the the spiritual communities are very forgiving. They're very generous. They're very forgiving. They're very open, which is exactly what a manipulative offender looks for. And Victor gave us example after example of people saying, yeah, I have a record, but Jesus has healed me and let me teach Sunday school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then the priest saying, or the pastor saying, I don't want to ruin the guy's faith. He said he's, repented, So, and they don't know how to, they're not equipped. They don't have the policies and procedures in place, and they haven't been trained on how to deal with this. So there's a wave of offenders who are going into the faith-based organizations. So last year, our big goal was the conference. This year, besides all the other stuff we do, and this year's big goal is to take the largest county in Maine, Cumberland County, and go to every single faith-based, I don't care if you're Wiccan, Buddhist, I don't care what you are, to go in and help them update. We already have, it's a template. They don't even have to create anything. All they got to do is fill in the blanks, get them to create a policy, an updated policy and procedure, and give them some training around how to keep their kids safe within that organization. That alone would have a massive impact on the community around keeping kids safe and offering hope for survivors.
Wow. Have you started it? I know that you were talking about this the other day in one of the lives that you did in the mastermind. Have you gotten any response? Have you started it yet or no? Not yet.
Yeah. So it's kind of, my husband calls it Chinese cooking. And so what that means is I have to get all my ducks in a row.
Uh-huh.
So what that looks like is a lot of admin. So it is gathering all of the names, addresses, emails, contact people for all of those organizations. And then you do an email, and then you follow up, and then you have, checks. Have these people been called? Have these people? So you do the email, you do a snail mail, and then you follow up with a phone call. And then I'm going to try to do them in groups. So like all the Baptist churches in this area, hey, let's get together and have a conversation. And then that will probably lead to them and their board, another conversation. And sort of it will be a process and a learning process, because this hasn't been done before. So we're, like doing a conference, it is learning as we go. But I just can't imagine there'll be pushback. What I learned in sales, and I know that you're an excellent salesperson, and you'll know this. It's better to be passed down than passed up. So if I go to the head people and they pass me down to somebody who can do the job, then that person is going to be more receptive than if I'm, hey, help me, hey, help me, hey, help me, like that.
Exactly.
So that's the goal.
Yeah, because that person's going to say, well, I mean, the person who referred her, right? It's obviously they're higher in whatever organization, right?
Right.
Yeah. I can't imagine that there would be any issues. I couldn't imagine that there would be any issues during the conference either. And you did get some people saying no. So.
Yeah, right. And then the second goal for 2020 is, I do a lot of public speaking, and I never ask for a penny, because I feel like the places that I'm speaking don't really have a budget. And what I care about is protecting children. So all the local stuff that I do, happy to do it, comes out of my family's pocket everywhere. If I have to spend the night, whatever, I go. So I would like to start doing some paid speaking events for like I said earlier, on conferences, there might be child advocacy centers or social workers, or every state has an annual conference for those groups. And I want to be a paid speaker for those groups, so I can help bring money in. So we have my husband, who's been very generous, and we have this grant writer, which is great. But I also want to have something else coming in, not only to support the stuff, the work that we do, but also I don't feel comfortable using any of that other money for things that I want to attend. So like attending the Sean Calgary, attending that. And that was a gift from Dana, actually, from our group.
Wow.
So that's wicked cool.
Awesome.
But then I have these different conferences, or if I want to go to a Tony anything, like I really wanted to go back to Date with Destiny. So those things I don't feel comfortable asking my husband because he's already like helping so much.
Yeah.
So this year is the first year that I'm like, okay, I need to start bringing in some money. So the bridging from not getting paid to getting paid, trying to, get over that bridge to make that happen. And that's just one more thing that I have to learn how to do that,
Yeah.
So,
I want to do everything possible to help you with that. Let's start here. If anybody watching this, right? Let's ask, right? That's
right.
Anybody watching this that knows anywhere or anybody that will pay Catherine to talk. And here's the thing. I think you just said the Tom Callaghan thing was a gift, right, from Dana, and I think it's just people want to. I think. Because once you get to know Catherine, you realize that she's a real deal, right? And she does this out of her heart, and she actually does like what you're talking about right now. You don't feel comfortable using money for other things or whatever. The money goes to where it has to go, right? And that's why I feel like so many people want to just give you like help you, right? Because you can tell that it really comes from the heart. I'm so glad that you're gonna do that. When is that? That's February, right, or January?
No, that's January. That's that's January. And then we have so I'm excited about meeting the people there. And then I had a really cool thing happen. So one of the people from our group, and her name is Lee, Lea, Lee, and she's with Smart Femme in I believe it's Scottsdale, Arizona. And she's like, listen, if you want to be a paid speaker, you need to have a TED Talk, you need to have a book, and you need to like call these organizations and say, hey, when are you accepting applications for speakers? Right? And so that was great information. Like she talked to me for like 45 minutes and was amazing, just amazing. And so that gave me the courage to reach out to a local writer. His name is Mark D'Agostino. He has several best-selling books out. He wrote the book for JoJo and Chip Gaines. He's written books for athletes. You would say ghost writer, but there's no ghost. His name's right on the cover. And so he's interested. He's been following me on Facebook for the last year. And so he said he's willing to consider writing my book.
Oh, wow.
So that would be, and I'm like, I'll just be quiet. You just write whatever you want to, So just so honored. So that's him. And I'm hoping to get a TED Talk, figure out, I don't know which one to go to.
Okay.
So I'm doing the things that people that I respect are telling me that I need to do.
Yeah. Actually we can reach out to, Gabby. She did a TED Talk in Brazil.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she did it like I think it was like 3 months ago.
I would love to go to Brazil.
Yeah, maybe we can talk to her. Maybe I'm gonna reach out to see if she can give us more information on how she did that, because she actually did that TED Talk a couple months ago.
Yeah. So one of the cool things that I just got the date today, as a matter of fact, I love bridging the most well-respected experts with the community, right? Because it's all about, educating them. And when I was at the White House, one of the things we talked about was what's the worst thing? And I knew that child pornography was bad. That whole thing is why Ashton Kutcher started Thorn, right? Like it's a big deal. And all Thorne does is computer stuff. Like he works with Homeland Security and cyber crimes to help find the children who are in the child pornography films. And we have, there's only like one of, I don't know, I want to say a half dozen people who really specialize in this. And one of them is in Maine. Oh. And her name is Dawn. She's phenomenal. So she works from Maine with cyber crimes. And she also helps if they've got a hot case somewhere else in the world, she'll help with that too. And we have some local schools here. And I spoke to the staff of one of the middle schools, and some of the crap they're dealing with is like a 14-year-old whose mom and dad is selling her for drug money. Okay. I mean, this is the stuff that the schools are having to deal with. So they asked if I'd come in and speak to them, and I spoke to about 70 of their staff. I never go by myself. I love bringing a dream team. So I'm like, if I've got 80 people, I want to like really speak their language, and maybe my language isn't it, but maybe if I bring the district attorney and I bring a sex educator and I bring an addiction specialist, and now we can have, a conversation. Always bring your A game. Always bring your A game.
Love that.
So what they were begging for was, this is great. We need to understand internet. Like, please, can you please? It's taken me almost a year to finally get the right people. But I have the cyber crimes people, including Dawn. Yay. And get this is so cool. There's a guy with Homeland Security, and his job is to pretend he's a pedophile going to other countries trying to buy children, and then they swoop down, arrest the people, and save the children.
Wow.
That's the guy's job, man.
Wow.
His home is in Maine, but he's always gone. And he said, I'll come. So I've got him, I've got Dawn and the cyber crimes at January 22nd, and they're going to come. And I'm like, they have to drive 2 hours to come. They're not happy about that. but they're coming, and I want to figure out what sort of gift basket to give them to make it worth their while. But I'm inviting other principals of other schools. Okay. So we'll have the middle school, the high school, the elementary school, and then the other schools. I'm going to ask the principals of other schools, hey, come and try to have as many reasonable, maybe 100, 125 people, so that when they come, they're going to be like, yeah, this is business. Let's get it on. Let's educate these people on how to educate children in a way, because the kids aren't going to get off their phone. They're going to be on their phone, but they need to understand that predators are out there pretending that they're kids. So only only play games with the kids that and how to use the parental controls to keep them safe. So anyway, I'm very excited about getting these. Unfortunately, I like to video and then share the video for people who couldn't be there. But because of the undercover nature of these people, I won't be able to film them. I can take notes. I'll take notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, because they're actually going out there, right? They're
yes.
Going out
their
there,
face can't be seen. Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy too, right? Like that can't be an easy job, right? The things that he's got to be going through.
Right. I mean, the post-traumatic, can you imagine the post-traumatic that they go through? First responders, like correctional officers, the suicide rate is astronomical.
Yeah.
Most of them don't live beyond 55, and people don't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know. There's certain professions I feel like you just have to be a certain type of person to be able to do that. Right. Because it's just, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. So that's going to be in January 22nd. So you're getting all the key players. You're getting all the key players, and you're kind of like introducing them, right, to
Right.
the community.
Yeah, I love that. So really, I'm a visionary. You know, I have great ideas. I have great ideas, but I'm not good at implementation. You know, the detail, like figuring out technology. I suck at technology. You know, the detail. And what's cool is that I've got really fantastic people on my board that, you know, keep me from dropping too many plates and keep everything going. So I had the dream of the conference, but really, you know, they did the behind the scenes work that make it happen. You know,
Yeah.
I had the dream of bringing these different experts to different groups, but you know, it's the other people who showed up. You know, I made the phone calls. Hey, well, you know, but it's other people. So it's a team effort, and it's my dream for getting everybody to update their policies and procedures. But there's a lot of work that will be done behind the scenes to make that come true.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet Ingrid in San Antonio.
Right. Yeah, you're going to meet her. I'm so glad. You know what? My board was, I never belonged to a board. I had no idea. You know, I just, when the lawyer said you need to have a board if you have a nonprofit, I put my husband, my daughter. I had no idea, you know. And then when Ingrid came on the board, it was like, oh my gosh, it was a game changer. It just raised everything up to, and I was like, wow, I have help.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can do so much more with this help. This is fantastic, you know.
Well, and one of the things I noticed, and I wanna give you kudos for this too, is like you know where where what you're good at, and you know where to delegate, right? And it seems like you know that really well, and so you can actually get shit done, right? It's like, because you know everybody has their own, because sometimes I feel like we want to do everything ourselves, right? Sometimes it's like, and it just works better with people around you, right?
No, I did and on my website, stoptraffickingus.org, there's I think it says from teenager to sex traffic survivor or something like that. That's my YouTube story. When it was the first time I was recorded telling my story.
Okay.
And so that's on the website. You know, it took me 90 hours to make that PowerPoint presentation.
Wow.
90 hours, you know. And last year I needed a PowerPoint, and I hired somebody, and she was, I think she was like $75 an hour or whatever it was. And oh my gosh, I had it back in 2 days, and it was amazing. The graphics were beautiful. It just looked like something I could be proud of. It was simple, and it was like, yes, that is the simplicity, you know, because everything that you do is important when you're trying to educate people. It's the visual. It's the different. Some people need numbers. Some people need a story. Some people, you know, how long do you stay? How long? You know, there's so many things to be the most effective you possibly can be, and it's my responsibility as an educator to try to hit as many different learning types as I can within my speech to be the most effective I can be, because that effectiveness is hope for somebody. It is saving a child for somebody. You know, like everywhere I speak, mostly men, by the way, they'll come up afterwards and they'll tell me some horrible story. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, I'm really sorry that you went through that. How long ago was that? And I started asking that, how long ago was that? Because it was, I needed it to drive home for me. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30, people are suffering right now. So every room you go into, half of the people in that room have been sexually abused. And most of that half are still actively, that's the lens that they're living their life from, you know, like everything, that generational trauma that comes down, even though, you know, an abused person who hasn't done their work has a child, and that child was not abused, but they were raised by a wounded person, they're going to have the same effects, you know, that generational trauma. It's like at some point we have to stop and heal our pain. Like, and people will say, well, what can we do, Catherine? How can we help with sex trafficking? How can we help with child sexual abuse prevention? And I'm like, the first thing you can do is do your work. Do your own work, regardless if you've had nothing happen or a little, just check in and do your work. And how you know what enough work is, it's when the stuff that used to trigger you and make you react as your lower self no longer does that. Then, you know, then you've healed it. So people will say, wow, this work must be so healing for you. And I'm thinking, oh, honey, I couldn't do this work,
if
you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why I do all those Facebook lives, you know, in the morning, the sunrise, you know, that's my thing.
It's
you
amazing.
know, that's
Everybody, if you haven't watched, if you haven't had the privilege to watch one of Catherine's lives, I mean, if you see it on Facebook, you live in such a beautiful place, and
I do.
those sunrises are, and you're always like, I love it. You know, I can imagine, like, you wake up and you're like with the sun. She wakes up and she watches the sunrise and she plays with the dogs and she feeds her animals, and it's just so great. It's just so amazing. It's just it's very calm.
And this was the person who another lifetime ago could only think about wanting to die. You know, every day I was like, man, it'd be so great if that semi that's coming, you know, on the other lane, like swerved over into mine, you know, where it's not my fault, you know, where I'm not going to go to hell or bad karma.
Yeah.
Like, just constantly wishing for death, you know, and dealing and healing and thinking it's never going to end, this healing journey. I'm never going to get there. I'm always going to be broken, and just all of that stuff, right? And if I would have believed that and took my own life, or didn't do my healing work and just said, well, this is the way it is, and just said, I'm going to save my money, right? I wouldn't be where I am now. This is a lot of hard inner work to manifest where I am now. And every morning that I wake up and I'm comfortable in my own skin, I'm not crawling out of my own skin, I'm not exhausted from night terrors and nightmares and, you know, all of the stuff. I wake up and I slept and I'm in a good mood and I'm in my skin. Man, I go outside to feed my goose and let the chickens out of the coop and play ball, and the sun's coming up. And I'm like, thank you, God, it's a new day. How can I serve?
Wow.
You know, how can I serve? And I have that space because I am so grateful for the life I have. I have such an amazing life. I feel obligated. I feel responsible to share this story with other people, to inspire them to do their work and to give back into the community so that we can all rise up together.
And you do that. Just so you know, I thank you for that, because I know that there's a lot of people in our group that have told you. It's just it really does help everyone. You know, like it really does. There've been days when, you know, I watch one of your lives, or we're doing an exercise and you share it with us, and it's always good. I feel like when we surround, one of the things I love about masterminds is that we surround each other with kind of like, I feel like whoever we need at that moment, just out of nowhere, kind of like says something or posts something or I don't know, shares something, and it just lifts you up, right?
Yeah. Michael did that when I hit kind of a wall on the conference, which is very unlike me, but I just sort of hit a wall. And I knew I had a some television interviews to do, and I didn't want to do it. I was like, man, I gotta like get my energy up because this is, Channel 6 News or whatever. And I did a Facebook Live, and I'm just like, man, I'm struggling. And Michael Nitti called me.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it was like what he said. It was just, I felt supported.
You're there. Yeah. Somebody
totally rejuvenated me. I was able to do the show and, and go on. And yeah, I mean, we all do that. We've got people who are paraplegic, and we have people with new hips, and we have, people with HIV, and we have real life people. These aren't like the golden silver spoon people. This is real life. And everybody is just committed to being their highest and best and doing their work. You can't ask for anything more than people trying their best.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I was going to say that you can tell it comes from the heart. Like with all of us, it comes from the heart. Like Michael, I was listening to a podcast of, and I'm hoping we can have him on. I think I've been talking to him, and we're going to have him on. I don't know if you know, Rafael Rolon, Dr. Rafael Rolon. I think he's there too. He's been traveling a lot, but he had a podcast, Michael, and he interviewed Michael Nitti, and I was just listening to it the other day, and Michael was talking about, it's like, they were talking about, and I want to kind of like segue into the spiritual part, because I know that we've had so many great spiritual conversations. So I want to make sure that we touch on that. But he was saying it's like, AA, right? People go through the work, and when you're done, there comes a part when you're done being, and you can actually help others, right?
Right.
You can actually go out and help, like in AA, like a lot of the people that are helping, they've gone through it, or they've done their healing, and so it's what I feel like that's what we have in a mastermind, right? Like so many people that are actually now they're going out, they want to do the work, and they want to help others, but more into the spiritual part of it, like doing that work. I know obviously I've done my work too, and we all have some things, but your story, like when we've spoken before, and it's I mean, it's not easy, right? Like, what would you say to people that are or usually what do you, because like you've done your work, and your work has not been like we've talked, and it's you've gone through a lot, right? But you also gotten to that point where you can tell that there's the ego is, whatever you can tell, like, the ego's gone, right? So that space, I guess that space, like what would you say would be key in doing the work, I guess? Because I know what I think. I want to know what you think, right?
I think that letting go of the story, is, for example, is every word in the Bible true? Like people get so hung up on, is that true? Mm-hmm. Right? Is that, so what? For me, I've had to say, it doesn't matter if something is true or not. Does it make me feel better? Mm-hmm. So I choose to believe that there is a loving God out there on the other side. Do I know that? No, I don't. I don't know that. I haven't had a conversation with anybody. Certainly not a big white guy with a big beard who only speaks, English in a white cloud or anything. Do I know, like A Course in Miracles, that's channeled? Do I believe that in channeled beings coming from, somebody giving information? I let go of my need for certainty around those things, and I ask, does this make me a better person? Wow. Does this belief, does this choosing to believe whatever I'm choosing to believe, does that belief call me, demand me to be a better person? Does it demand that I am kind and generous and forgiving? Does it bring me joy? Does it contribute? Does it serve? Like, are these good things, right? And so I let go, in A Course in Miracles, for instance, I let go of, who cares if this information is channeled from, Bubba in the bar room or whoever. Does this touch my spirit? Does it make me think about the Holy Spirit? And what's my story about the Holy Spirit? My story about the Holy Spirit is like, this is the psychiatrist from God in the Trinity, right? So I break it down. I break down the spirituality in a way that serves me, not from a selfish, self-centered way, but from a beautiful way. I remember being in a fundamentalist church. When I was young. I was a born-again Christian. I studied with the Navigators. Those of you in the fundamentalist Christian world know what I'm talking about. Navigators, you memorized the scripture, and I would ask questions, right? And I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense. And I was told, have faith, don't ask questions, sit there and shut up and be quiet. And then I would take scripture and I'd go to the pastor and I would say, hey, this guy's got 10 children and he's never home and his wife's about to have a nervous breakdown. And here in scripture, it says he should not be an elder when his home isn't, and I was sent out of there,
Yeah.
But then when I went to Unity Church of Christianity in Lee Summit, Missouri, and I was taking Old Testament and New Testament interpretation, I did that for 2 years and I learned about world religions, and I wanted to be a minister, believe it or not. That calling was with me, and I was studying all these different, and really what I learned was, like, they all have a story. There's good versus bad, and how to live and how to be. And I'm like, okay, what works for me? What works for me? And one of the coolest churches I've ever been to was it was like a Catholic church in a ghetto area in like downtown Kansas City. And I'm telling you, the priest was a very feminine, like, you take any drag queen you've ever, like, feminine. And he was calling on the east, west, northwest, and trying to heal these or bless these nurses, these medical staff who are getting ready to go to Haiti. And they were like singing gospel, and I'm like, okay, this is a Catholic church with ritual. They're doing some, Wiccan stuff as a drag queen, and I was just like, I'm in heaven. This is fantastic. This is like the best service I've ever been to in my life. So I started church hopping. I love that gospel, and we have this church in Maine that's people from Jamaica and Africa. We have a huge African immigrant people have come. They've got the big things on their head and they're fanning and they're praising. I love it. What brings me joy? So for me in my spiritual journey, I had to quit trying to analyze scientifically everything and just start to let go and trust, right? And just make stuff up. and so I would make up that the Holy Spirit was my psychiatrist. And I would like talk to the Holy Spirit when I had serious problems. And I'm telling you, help would come. I would change the way I thought about things. Instead of thinking, my father's dead, my mother's a lunatic, whatever, I would say, look how I'm being mothered. Look how this mother, father, God universe is bringing these motherly people into my realm to like mother me. And like, oh my gosh, look how this old guy is like treating me like a daughter. Instead of looking at what wasn't working, I was looking how this universe, how God, this that I've made up, is just like meeting me. And then I'm saying in return, not in return, but how can I serve Mother, Father, God? How can I be a beacon of light and love? How can I, and then what looks like miracles, like you and I have talked, I have miracle story after miracle story after miracle story that would give you goosebumps on how this dance, this beautiful relationship I have. So if I'm around Christians, I can talk Christian. I'm around Buddhists, I can talk Buddhist. I'm around Wiccan, I can talk about Wiccan, because really it's all going to the same place. And what I make up. And what I make up makes me happy, comfortable in my own skin, zen, and I manifest just amazing things. I've never had better friends, a better tribe, a better home, a better relationship. Like everything is so amazing. And I believe it is that connection that I have with spirit, with God, and that it's all love. It's all good. Did I answer?
That's so beautiful. Yeah, you didn't just answer it. you answered it beautifully. I mean, I love how you how you are how you explained it. It's so much our stories, right? That we tell each other. I mean, it's so much that we tell ourselves. I'm not each other ourselves, right? That and there was a key thing that I think really resonates with me. It's that letting go, right? That trust, and that letting go, that surrender. That we're not the stories. We are not the stories. We're not who we think, right? We're not the stories we tell ourselves. And by the way, you told me about Course of Miracles. I'm going through it since we talked last time. And it just completely resonates. So many things just resonate.
The best book I've ever, it's so funny because it really depends on where you're at. I started off with the preschool level, which was Gerald Jampolsky's book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. And then the high school level is Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love. Mm-hmm. And then the PhD is A Course in Miracles. And then, Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul. Mm-hmm. And then Spiritual Seeker with Elizabeth Lesser. Brene Brown, everything. I love, The Road Less Traveled is just like actually further along the road less traveled. So, and then I've gone back and read those books and they hit me in a different way. Untethered Soul. But right now, so right now, the book that I'm just like really, really enjoying is The Way of the Master by the Shanti Christo Foundation. It's like that thick, but it takes all of my beliefs, it's a little Byron Katie, asking the 4 questions. It's a little bit of A Course in Miracles. It's a little bit of Wayne Dyer, God rest his soul. Mm-hmm. And one of my first teachers that I loved so much died on December 20th.
Ram Dass, right?
Yeah, man. I saw him in Kansas City and he hugged me and he taught me how to meditate. And, things hit you where you need to be hit when you need to be hit there, it's definitely an evolution. And I think the older you get, the more mature you are spiritually. And what mature spirituality looks like, I think, is trusting, is letting go and trusting. And I think you let go and trust more and more because stuff works out. Like, you freak out about something, and then and you're like, there's no way out. This is we're doomed. The sky is falling. And then, like, this perfect thing happens. Yeah. And you look back and you go, well, this great thing wouldn't have happened if that hadn't happened. And that had, you start to see the plan, Yeah. And then it's like, wow. And the plan's plan was like so much better than mine. Yeah. So then when something else happens, that's like, oh, how can this be happening? And then I'm a failure and this is terrible and it's doom and, whatever. What was the old hee-haw? Gloom, despair, and agony on me. Deep, dark depression, excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I've had no luck at all. Gloom, despair, and agony, right? So when you go there, a little entertainment brief there. When you go there, you can go to, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to do what I know the next right thing is, because that's always the question. What is the next right thing to do? What is the next right thing? And maybe the next right thing is to eat some vegetables. Maybe the next right thing is to go for a walk and do some breathing. Maybe the next right thing is to write in your gratitude journal. Maybe the next right thing is to, like, ask for help. But whatever that next right thing is, you can trust, because you know that there's a plan and that the plan is better than anything you could come up with. So just hang in there, man. It's going to be okay. Whatever it is, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's that surrender, right? It's like, it's funny because, after I had the spiritual awakening, and we've talked about it, it's like and I was talking about this with Gibran too. It's like, we sometimes hear these things and we think we get it until we actually get it, and then we're like, oh wait, like, right? Oh, now I get it, right? Like, it's like, I remember, one of the things like that with me was, that quote from, not a quote, but it was from that speech that Steve Jobs made, where he was like, you have to connect the dots, right? You have to connect the dots. Right. And you think about it and you're like, well, yeah, like I thought I got it, right? You connect the dots, but it's what you're talking now, right? If we're actually able to surrender, right? Which is something that we're actually able to surrender and just trust, and we can just trust that next dot, we don't know what it's going to look like, right? But that next dot is the dot that has to happen, right?
You still have to do the work. Like, I had to, when I didn't get that one church, I had to find another church to have the conference in. I had to actually reach out to that author and say, hey, are you willing? You have to take a look at the standards that you have for yourself, and always try to expand those standards of, okay, there was this Netflix movie. I think that I'm pretty good at trying to expand my standards. But I watched this Netflix, I don't even know the name of it. It was so freaking weird. I was like, why am I watching? I must really be bored to be watching this Netflix movie. But it was this sort of dumpy guy. He was just sort of not doing good in his job, and his wife wanted to leave him, and he was just sort of a miserable SOB. And somebody at the sales meeting was doing really great, and he said, I went to this place at a strip mall and I got an upgrade, and you have to bring $10,000. So the guy goes to the strip mall with $10,000, and it's like these two little Asian guys, and what they do is they clone your body and make you the best possible you. Right? And then they kill the old you And who shows up in your life is like the highest, best version of you. And it was this funny thing because they failed at killing the old him. And so here was his low self and his highest self are in his life.
Oh, wow.
And figuring out who's going to take the wife on the date, and, you know, like who's going to do the sales call, and, you know, all this stuff. And I was like, wow, I wonder how, like the guy, like he made his bed in the morning and the other guy didn't, and, you know, and I was like, wow, can I pretend that I've had a complete overhaul with my DNA and I am my best, highest self? How would she wake up in the morning? Mm-hmm. How would she do the day? How would she treat people? You know? And that was, you know, there are lessons everywhere. And when people think that they need to, like, I don't know, go to India for a spiritual pilgrimage or whatever it is, I'm thinking those spiritual awakenings are everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's the holidays. We're 2 days away from Christmas. You want to see where you're at spiritually? Go hang out with your family, mm-hmm. right? You want to see where your edges are?
Ram Dass used to say that, right? Ram Dass used to say, if you think you're so awake, and go back to your parents for a week or something like that, right?
That's right, right? And spirit can talk to you and raise your standard and remind you who you're supposed to be in a book. With the stupid Netflix, there's opportunities to be reminded of who we are, you know, mm-hmm. and to not play small, but really do your work and surrender, right? It sounds like it's opposite, but do your work and surrender.
And that, I love that you said that it sounds like it's opposite, because that was exactly what I was thinking when you said you have to do the work, right? Like, for instance, in my example, like this, I'm loving this. I'm loving doing this. This is the second time. And obviously, you know, conversation with you, it's never boring. It's never boring. But like, I'm loving it. But it was actually doing the work because I had to surrender to it. My ego didn't want to do it, right? So it's like surrendering to even if, you know, what the ego is telling, that story that you tell yourself, right? That story that, that's that story that all of us tell ourselves, right? And then just surrendering to whatever that I feel it's like that gut or like that intuition, and being able to actually go through it, right? Surrender to it, but actually doing the work. And that's what I was going to ask you. Oh my God, that looks just like my daughter's dog.
Really?
Yes, that's the Chihuahua, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So my daughter's, I mean, I'm going off the point here, but she's got oh my God, look at her. She's got it was supposed to be a hairy Chihuahua, but it's a mix between Chihuahua and Jack Russell. And
yeah, no, she's all Chihuahua.
Yeah.
She's my bed warmer. So I sleep on my side and she goes behind my knees, my bent knees, and that's where she sleeps. And then Lulu sleeps right here, and I'm like, I can't move, you know. And then the Labrador Retriever is at the bottom of the bed because the littlest one won't let him come up any further. So it's this weird. We have a sleep by the number bed because my husband snores, so he's got his CPAP, and he's adjusted up. So it's like two twins. So he's adjusted up, and I'm down, and I've got all the dogs. So I'm like this contorted sort of thing. So she how heavy is her dog, your daughter's?
I think it was 50. It was funny. It's funny because we were talking about that when we drove up to Dallas from San Antonio yesterday, and she had him on her lap, and she was like, yeah, I think he's more than 15 pounds, but I think he weighs 15, but, you know, obviously she had him on the lap for 5 hours, but she was like, yeah, I think it's more than 15 pounds.
I think Lily's like 8 pounds right now. She's a little sausage. She likes to eat, but she's our diva. She hoards her little toys, and she's a very feminine little diva, where Lulu is macho. She just walks, or she does perimeter checks.
Perimeter.
Yeah.
that's something, that's also something now that I look at. Sometimes you can just tell, like you look at a dog, right? Or like an animal, and it's like, you feel it, right?
Yeah.
You feel that, that kind of like spirit or soul
Absolutely.
or,
And that's the, everybody, I like to say that comparing Jesus to regular human beings, and not just Jesus, great minds too, but I'm just using Jesus because that's what everybody knows. It's kind of like in the computer world back in the day when we played Pong, that Pong, Bong, Boing, the most simplest computer game ever, Pong. And then there's a supercomputer, right? These little microchips that can like run, NASA, right? These little tiny super. And when Jesus came, he was like showing us that we have super brains, like we have such capacity, we have such capability, but we're playing Pong, we're playing Pong. And we can heal ourselves. We can heal each other. We can feel and see energy on each other. We have so many amazing things that we're capable of if we only attune ourselves to that. Like a radio station tuning into this signal. If we just tune in, we can feel the energy off of dogs, off of animals, off of plant life. I mean, that was the whole thing on the Celestine Prophecy, the book, not the movie, is being able to do that. And I believe that someday we will be able to, and people are healing themselves. The work that Joe Dispenza does,
that's amazing,
teaching people how to tune in.
Yeah. And I love how it's, which is what I think you were saying before. It's, you can look at it from, now after I had this spiritual awakening, that you start talking, and I feel like I don't know, I feel like we attract, right, the people or the
absolutely
souls that we need at that in the moment. I know somebody that she's in a Christian faith based church, and she teaches this about this, your spirit, your soul, your body, soul, spirit is how she teaches it, right? Body, soul, spirit, and then you have Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about it, but like as an energy field, and
right.
instead of chakras, he's energy centers, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
Then and then you have the Buddhist tradition, but everybody's saying the same thing at the end, right?
It's all in what I make up, what I have chosen to believe.
I think you and I make up a lot of the same things.
Yeah. It's all the same thing. So if so I love dark chocolate ice cream. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite. And if you put every language, what is there, 94 language, however many languages there are, and you have one person speaking English and they're all saying, I have free chocolate ice cream, I'm going to have to go through, however many people before I get a language that I can understand, right? And so truth is truth. And there's a lot of people speaking different languages of truth. And the one that is going to, and it's all the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just different way of saying it. And whatever resonates with you, when that hits you, you go, oh, okay, that's truth, right? That's resonating with you. But here's the thing. You can't cling to that like it's a life vest, right? You try that on and you say, okay, this works for me right now. But when you hear other truths, mm-hmm. you have to be willing to say, okay, is that truth a higher version of this truth? If it is, I need to let this truth go and take the new truth, right? And then walk with that. And then I meet another new truth. Does that truth work? No, I like my truth better. I need to keep this truth for a while. Thank you for sharing. Bye, right? Mm-hmm. And then so that's how you constantly grow. When we hang on to one thing and it's like this way or the only way, mm-hmm. right? And anything that says this way is the only way, run for the hills, because and that there's something wrong with you. So I love my chickens, and I'm very loyal. I'm very loyal, and I wanted to buy my chicken feed from the same person where I got my chickens. It's a small mom and pop thing, but he's a fundamentalist. And each time I would go, I was getting ready for the conference. He would say to me that I should not be doing the conference, that a man should do it, not a woman,
Oh.
and that if I and that the entire anyway, he said a lot of very things that are true for him. And I had room for him to be who he was, but when I would hear him, I would not agree with him or take his truth as my truth. I just let him have his truth. And I listened and I said, that's a beautiful truth you choose to have, right? But each time he would get more and more persistent that I take his truth as mine. And I had to stop buying my chicken feed there because he was unable to do that. So not only, in my opinion, do we have to hold our truth loosely and be willing to trade up, but we also have to have respect for other people, and let them believe whatever they choose to believe, and not try to make them believe what we believe.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's one of the things that I think, for me, I think it's been in the beginning. Look at him right there.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that.
No, no.
Yeah.
It's great. It's trying to, for me, I think it happened like when I had that spiritual awakening, like out of nowhere, I wanted to tell everybody, and I wanted to hey, this is how I see things now. And at some point you just start realizing everybody's truth is their truth, right? And everybody is where they're supposed to be at the moment where they are now, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's on their own journey, I feel.
Right. The same spirit, the same energy that is moving us is moving the other person. And sometimes that's hard. And, I really believe that there are no accidents in life, and so your epiphany, your aha moment, there are going to be people who are going to cross your path that need to hear your experience. You don't have to chase after them. The universe will bring them to you,
Yeah. And by the way, just you sharing, I want to make sure that I share this with you too. We had a conversation where you told me something like this, right? And it really has helped for me to actually be doing this, because I felt like I'm like, I don't have to, like you said, I don't have to chase anyone to doing it, but I can just put it out there. And if it resonates with someone, or right, if somebody listens to it or watches it or whatever, then if it's their moment that this resonates or whatever, then but it's out there. But you don't have to chase people to do it, or having other people believe your truth, right? Like what you believe.
Right. What I found in the world of incest survivors, rape survivors, domestic violence survivors, what I found with people who've endured trauma is sometimes they have a really wounded relationship with God. How can a loving God allow a child to be, raped and murdered? How can a God fill in the blank? And you have to figure out a way of coming to peace with that. Ram Dass was very good. He would really help. I remember there was one couple who was at like a baseball game, and their daughter was brutally raped and murdered, and they were inconsolable, and he spent time with them and helped them, through that. And, I don't feel like I have to, like I know all the answers. I have to find a way to get beyond that in order to have a loving relationship with God. And so what I make up for me is that there's this thing called free will. And I think that's God's like only mistake. is free will. But people are born, and I don't understand about karma, and I think I actually think that maybe karma is the DNA that we carry, the crap, that whatever our grandmother felt and our mother felt and endured, and it comes through into our cells, and we have to outgrow those or something. But I think that people do what people do, and that's free will, and that God isn't the God that stops child molesters from, he didn't stop anybody from raping me. Mm-hmm. He didn't stop anybody from sexually abusing me. If that person would have choked me 1 minute longer, I would have been dead instead of passed out. My God didn't allow that or not allow that. It was free will. But what God does do is help me heal what was done, and then use that to stop that from happening to somebody else. Can turn that into something good, and that's it's a really it's a word game. Somebody could say it's a bunch of crap, it's a story, it's bullshit, it's whatever. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Maybe there isn't a God, maybe there is a God, maybe that whatever. But I have come up with a story around spirituality that has created an amazing life that I never imagined was possible. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy, and I don't have panic. I haven't had a panic attack or a night terror or in 10 years. Wow. So if my bullshit story has given me everything that I have now, okay, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that lie. I'm going to go with that lie. And I'm going to stay with it, because it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't matter, as long as my beliefs aren't hurting anybody else, and it's calling me to a higher standard of being in this world, then rock on.
I love that. And I was brings me to, I know that we've talked about this, but I wanted to ask you, because the being, to me, that's the key, that's a key word, being, right? Actually being in the present moment, and actually being kind of out of the mind, right? Out of that ego, and just being there. And I feel like you do such an awesome way of doing that. What's your view on that, on the present moment, time and space, and that present moment? I love if you could share that with us. I know that there's not much time.
So the how I imagine it, this is just the shit I make up. Mm-hmm. I make up that I am a spiritual being. I'm this invisible energy that's living inside of this human body. Mm-hmm. And this human body, it's an organic bodysuit. And this organic bodysuit is programmed to reproduce, to fight infection, and to stay alive. That's it, right? It is just the basics, right? That's this suit. And it's kind of like the auto check on my phone. My human brain, the organ brain, takes in experiences that I've gone through, and it makes up stories like, this is safe, that's not safe. So like somebody walking down an inner city, down a sidewalk, and she's a white rich woman, and she sees somebody of color, big, scary looking, coming towards her. She makes up my purse isn't safe. She, it's just her brain saying, right? It's just her brain trying to keep her alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's making up a story. So if I see, an El Dorado, I immediately think of something bad, right? So it just takes these little snippets and it makes up stories because its job is to keep me safe and alive.
Mm-hmm.
Now the spirit inside of my body is the watcher. It's the one that's witnessing my body going through the day. It's witnessing, my brain is saying, wow, it's really cold. And my spirit is listening to my body say, hey, it's really cold. Like, hello, don't you know that? I mean, can't you feel that? Why do you have to think that? Why, so
Yeah.
am I the person saying it's cold, or am I the person listening to myself say it's cold?
Mm-hmm.
I believe my spirit is the witness. It's witnessing the negative talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one listening going, oh my God, you're beating the crap out of yourself. We hear in the lives people talking about, oh, I hear my negative narrator, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our high self is like watching. So the skill is between the watching and the acting is the space, like music,
Mm-hmm.
the notes. There's a tone, there's a silence, and then there's another tone. And then that dance creates music. So there's a thought, and then there's the witnessing the thought, and then there's choosing what to make up about that thought, and then choosing what the action is going to be on that thought, right? And so all of this is a little dance and a skill that we have to learn. Instead of the human being dragging the spiritual being around, it can be the spiritual being dancing with the human being, going through life in harmony with grace and ease, right?
Yeah.
And then the time and space, I believe, if I was more like Jesus or these other advanced beings who know how to use their computer more than Pong, right? That I would be able to travel through time and space. I'd be able to come to Dallas and hang out with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
could just think it and be there. I believe that. I believe I could walk on water. I believe I could fly like an eagle.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. I believe I did that once, and I believe I'll do that again. But right now I'm in this soul school, and I'm just trying to learn how to control, like learning how to drive. I'm trying to learn how to drive this human organic body
I love
instead of it running me.
yeah, I love that, and I love that you said that you've been there once.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that you said that you believe you've been there once. You'll do it. You'll be there again. You've done it once. You'll do it
Absolutely.
again.
I remember flying. I think I'm as old as time.
Yeah.
I think me and Archangel Michael were a hot couple back in the day. I think
that
before the fall,
after that
Michael
story.
and I, right? We had it going on, man. I think I have been as bad can be, and I think I have been as good can be, and and it makes and I choose to believe that because it makes me happy. I love the idea that me and Archangel Michael were a couple of badasses back in the day. I love that.
I gotta tell you though. I've seen some I mean, that picture of you climbing that. I mean, that is pretty. You. It's hard to get more badass than that.
That's pretty badass. Yeah.
That is really badass. If people that haven't seen it, I mean, I'll see if I can share it. But that is really badass. That was awesome.
That's cool. So I had this vision, I was thinking about Satan, and I was thinking about angels, and I was thinking about the fall, and how we have to make that choice for ourselves all the time, right? The spiritual mind and the human brain, and we have to make that decision of, are we gonna like be love, or are we gonna fall into fear? Are we gonna it's a choice. It's constantly a choice. And I saw those back in the day. Victoria's Secret would like do the fashion show with the wings. And I'm like, I love those wings, particularly the white ones. Mm-hmm. And there was in my bodybuilding competitions, I'm on this Facebook thing where they sell their used costumes, and somebody was selling wings. And I'm like, I must have those. So I bought those wings, and I'm like, one of these days. And then there's a local photographer who does wedding pictures with the bride and groom on this little skinny ledge. It's like maybe a foot, not even a foot wide. And he hires this rappel guy. They're all highly trained people. And they had the bride and groom down, they put them on the ledge, it takes pictures. And I'm like, I want to do that. And I want to wear the wings. And I want to, kind of like Batman, looking over this little village beneath. You can see all the little houses. And I want to wear my red leather thigh-high kick-ass boots. Nothing else. And the wings, and the white wings, and I'll be where you can't see, where you can't see anything. Yeah. And I had to let shyness go, because these photographers were gonna like see stuff I would rather them not see. Yeah. But you have to rappel down that ledge pre-dawn. So there's a headlamp on, and they're carrying, the boots and the wings and all this stuff, and then you're attached to the ledge, and you're trying to put your outfit on, and you're waiting for the, and it's freezing. It's fall, beautiful fall foliage, and you're waiting for that sun to just peek up. And then there I am. And I'm like, yes, that I want that picture, because that is the artistic, representative, whatever, of what I think that human beings, at least me, I have to make every day. Am I going to open a can of whoop ass on my husband, or am I going to be loving and kind? Or, or to the dogs, or to myself, or like the choice is there every second of every day. Am I going to be love, or am I going to spew, fear, mm-hmm. love or fear? So that was really, and then while I was there and I had hired, that level of expertise, climbers, I'm like, I'm sick of people, and no offense, but people, when I was doing my bodybuilding, were always sending me Wonder Woman stickers and Wonder Woman stuff. You're a Wonder Woman. And I'm like, I don't want to be a version of somebody else. Mm-hmm. I want to be the superhero version for myself. I think as human beings, we need to be our own superhero. So I put on the black boots and the black cat suit and the black mask and the red superhero cape of love. And I'm like, I want to be my own superhero. There's not a Batman, Catwoman, Superwoman, Wonder Girl. It is Catherine rappelling down this cathedral ledge in the White Mountains in North Conway, New Hampshire, because I am my own fucking superhero and I choose love. Right?
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. I love that. That's incredible. That's incredible. I didn't know you actually had to put all that on while you were on that ledge. I mean, I couldn't imagine that. I was just looking at that picture and thinking, oh my God, like, how do you not get like vertigo or something? Like, how do you not like, because it really is a very.
Yeah. I'll share the pictures of me going down with you sometime. It was really, I pictured the whole, I thought nobody's going to believe this. People are going to think it's photoshopped. No, it was headlamp and rappelling down. Wow. And all of the all of this stuff that you need to do to rappel at night, down to the ledge. And then there's a strap around my waist that you can't see because the way I'm perched. Mm-hmm. And then that is attached to this giant stake that they drilled into a crack in the cliff. Wow. So it was scary, but I was like, no, this is it, because I knew that, I've had long black hair, coal black, blue black hair for a long time. And I absolutely loved that. But I knew I was silver. I knew, every 3 weeks I had to dye my hair. And I'm like, why am I dyeing my hair? I want to choose how I'm going to grow old. I'll be 56 in April, and I want to choose how I'm going to grow old gracefully. And I don't want to do Botox. I don't want to do facelifts. I don't want to dye my hair. I want to like embody this next chapter in a different way and do it my way, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to cut off all my hair. And part of that picture, was I knew I was going to like cut it off and let it grow in. It'll be long when I'm 60, 4 more years. It'll be long again.
Yeah.
I miss my long hair, but I didn't want to try to be somebody I wasn't, I wanted to like, I don't know. It's this whole new key. I was on with Keisha Joy yesterday.
Oh, really?
She was pulling cards, and she pulled mine, and she's like, "You are ripe. You're done. You're a lion, man. You've done your work. This 2020, 2020.
I can't wait to see what you do in 2020.
And that's it. It just feels like I've been in labor, and now I'm being born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
wicked excited. And maybe that means I die in 2000. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, if I die tomorrow, it's not because I want to die. It is like I am in just such a really great place.
Mm-hmm.
I feel happy. And my reason for staying on earth is I just want to help more kids. That's it. I just want to I want to save more kids.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. That's so beautiful. I know that there's not much time left, and I want to respect your time. That dance that you do so beautifully between that mind and the spirit. Is there like any? I know that you were talking about Joe Dispenza. Is there any meditation or anything that that what do you do to do that work, right, to be able to be in that? Because I like what Eckhart Tolle talked about, like mini meditations, right? He's like, it's not just meditating and then you're meditating and then after 20 minutes or an hour meditating you're back to yelling at your kid, right?
Right.
So it's like mini meditations throughout the day just to be able to stay in that space, right, that you were talking about. Is there anything specific that you do or anything?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I do. So I did train I did transcendental meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been formally trained for that. Ram Dass had a really cool one. Ram Dass said, imagine you're sitting in front of a train.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're sitting, your human brain is like, talk, 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 talk. You're trying to sit and you're trying to zen out and be all, cool in your little meditation moment. And your brain is saying, my butt hurts. My leg's gone to sleep. I can't feel my toes. I'm hungry, whatever. And then it might go to, some fears. It might go to some worries. It might go to whatever. And Ram Dass said to name whatever comes up. So let's say body stuff, your body's talking to you. Just say body stuff. And then imagine it going into one of the boxes of a train, and it's just going. And you say, thanks for sharing. Fear about whatever. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to learn this. Worry. Thanks for sharing. Bye. So that was Ram Dass's thing, was like, thanks for sharing. Bye. Thanks for sharing. Bye. Other people say you can use a leaf, going down a river. You can whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. For me, it's my morning meditation is the most important. And that's the one where when I'm outside and the sun is rising, I own my creation. I own that everything in my life, good, bad, and indifferent, I manifested through worry, fear, hope, hard work, the good, the bad, the neutral. Like I made my life. And I don't, but there's no, but I wholly own my life. And I go, okay, I did a pretty good job on some of it, not so good on some others, but I own that I made the whole thing. And if I was capable of making all of this, I'm a pretty good manifester, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I manifested some really bad stuff. I manifested some really good stuff. I am a pretty good manifester. So I own it. I recognize that I manifested it. And then I say, what good shall I manifest in this day?
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
And how can I show up with loving, light, forgiveness, generous? How can I show up as my highest and best self in this day? And then I surrender. And I ask, you talk about yelling at your kids. How can I be of service? So that one's hard for me because I don't always take as good a care of me as I should, because I'm in this service mode towards others. But then I had this epiphany the other night, and I was like, my back in the day, before Christ, all holy text was not allowed to be touched by human hands for fear of death. You couldn't go into the holy room where the holy scriptures were, because if you opened the door or lifted, the little treasure chest thing, you would die.
Okay.
It was so holy. This body that we're living in is that holy temple. It is the holy organic being that the holiness, that aspect of God that dwells in all of us is inside of. Like, we need to honor this temple of the holy. It took it to a whole nother level for me, like a deep level. Like, you better be careful what you're putting in, what you're feeding this holy temple, what you're watching, what you're listening to. Are you putting holy text, holy, whatever, if we had something from Jesus, like if we had the Holy Grail, if we had the cup from the Last Supper, or we had some, like, would we put it on the table and watch Jerry Springer? No.
Exactly.
Like, what are we eating? What are we watching? What are we reading? What are we listening to? What are the words coming out of our mouth? Are we honoring that which lives within us with how we're treating our body? So that was really a cool revelation. That was just another peeling of the onion, just a deeper level of respect for myself. And I'm hoping that will give me the motivation to have some better boundaries. But how I go through my day is, how can I be of service? And I love that about me. And I think that helps me stay in the Zen. And when I start to get resentful, poor me, I have to change the toilet paper roll again. Then I know when I start getting pissy about the little things, I know it's time for me to step back and do my spiritual reading and pull back. I just need to do that a little more. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah, the triggers, right? I mean, it's like when you, but that's the important thing, though. I feel like that's the important thing, having that awareness of those triggers. Yeah. Being able to be aware and say, hey, wait, I need to step back, right?
Yeah.
You said something to me that really helped me a lot, and I one of the calls that we had was, you were like, you're awake now, and there's a lot of us there. There's a lot of us here, and we honor you, and I appreciate that so much, and that really helped. And so, what would you say to people? Because this is more on spirituality and spiritual awakening, right? Like, I'm so excited to have the mastermind that's coming up, and you being a part of it. But what would you say to somebody that is, or like, I guess, last piece of advice, somebody that's going through it.
Who's going through a spiritual journey?
Or a spiritual awakening, or has
spiritual awakening. Let go of the rules. You know, let go of the rules. This is a beautiful, you know, the relationship with a spiritual, whatever you want to call it. You know, we come into this world alone and we die alone. And we've all been around long enough to know that friends come and go, partners come and go, kids come and go, everything comes and goes. There is such an amazing feeling to be connected, you know, and as you grow, it's that feeling of connectedness stays with you more and more. Like I don't remember the last time I felt disconnected. Like I am plugged in all the time. And that doesn't mean that my humanness doesn't come out. It does all the time. But I'm able to just sort of laugh at myself and go, well, there, you know, whatever. It's a beautiful thing, and it doesn't need to fit in a box. You know, it doesn't need, you don't have to label it. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to follow any rigid rules. If you want to do ritual, do ritual. If you don't want to do ritual, you don't have to do ritual. If you want to wear white, wear white. It like whatever floats your boat, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're connected. That's it. And connection is as easy as wanting to be connected. That's it, man. That's it. All you need is to want to be connected. And then watch, because everything you need will come to you. Everything you need to know, it will jump out. You know, a book that you've read 100 times, all of a sudden there'll be something that'll jump out that you never saw before. A song will come on the radio. A friend will call. Something on Netflix. There are no accidents. And when you want to be connected, all of a sudden you just start seeing things. And I say all of a sudden, it's not like a light switch comes on. It's like a dimmer switch. And the dimmer switch, it just gets lighter and lighter and lighter, and clarity, like when you're getting your new glasses, wow, I can see so much clearer. Oh my God, I can really see clear. Oh my gosh, I can see the lowest line. Wow, you know, it's like that. And it's just, I never feel alone, and I trust the process, you know.
It's the key, right? Trust.
Yeah.
I want to respect your time, and I know that we've gotten to that 2 hours. Is there anything else that you wanted to that you feel like you want to say, or?
No, I guess I just want to say the beauty about your podcast is that you know, people can see and hear from you that it's not one size fits all, which is beautiful. And I think when we get to have that conversation and not be unplugging in my phone because of the battery. When we get to have that.
Oh, I lost. There we go.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, having the conversation and people understanding that's not one size fits all, and that there's room for everybody and everything. You know, ice cream is not just vanilla. You know, there's like a lot of flavors, and it's all ice cream. And there's a lot of paths, and it's all good. You know, there's no wrong or bad path to God. All paths lead home.
Yeah, I love that. I want to thank you so much for being here, for your time. It's been such an honor. And everybody remember, stoptraffickingus.org, right?
Yeah.
Stop Trafficking US. a couple of things. StopTraffickingUS.org. If you have something that you wanna help with, whatever it is, it's welcome.
Love it. Yeah.
And let's get some paid speaking gigs for Catherine.
You know what? And it's coming. This is the year. You know, this is the year.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what your 2020 manifests.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the mastermind tonight, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for your time. I love you.
Okay. I love you too. Bye.
Bye.